there's this idea that if your credit score is low, it's because you're irresponsible or undisciplined or maybe even lazy. And I've met people who paid their bills religiously and they hustle every day and they still can't even crack a 620. I've seen people who've never missed a payment get denied for loans. Well, some people have 3 lates, various trade lines, and they get a green light and I can get them a loan. I always preach truly that credit scoring is, in my personal opinion, a racket. And it is a game, right? That most of us never know how to play. And only few really overcome those hurdles and educate themselves or use services to really get those rules down pat to beat the house, so to speak. Today, we're going to start decoding that, not with scare tactics, not with shame, but with someone who's been in the trenches, helping people reclaim control, understanding the system, letting and really not letting those three little bureaus and numbers define their entire future. So we're going to talk about what's really behind the score and what you can do about it in today's episode. My name's Dina Glasgow. I am a loan officer, an entrepreneur, an investor myself, and I want the discussion of money, financial literacy, and the creation of generational wealth to be less taboo. My hope is to help people break down the barrier walls that they use as a defense mechanism when asked to talk about their finances, for people to understand that they don't need millions or even thousands to begin making their way to financial freedom, as well as offer insight and opportunities that are out there to take action to find their version of success and path to wealth. Because there's not one way to success. We simply have to find your way to success. They say it takes a village to raise a child, so why go solo with your finances? Welcome to Invest in You. Today we have Mr. Kevin Faulkner. He is owner of 3B Credit Health. He's going to be helping out all of us today, giving us some insight. And I really, Kevin, thank you so much for spending some time with me. I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. I'm honored to be here. I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Thank you. So I had seen a stat just recently that said a 60-point increase in somebody's score could save them thousands on a mortgage over time, right? How real is that? And how often do you see that kind of shift in your business?
Yeah, well, it's absolutely, it's fact. It's 60 points can make all the difference in the world in qualifying, but it could make all the difference in the world in what kind of interest rates that you get. And I love the intro. Thank you. It was awesome. I'm excited to dive into this stuff with you on giving your audience some information that's going to guide them to where a lot of this stuff people put into use and get their scores up 60 to 100 points. But yeah, it definitely could. And, to go along with that, you get the benefits of that 60 points and you get the benefits of that credit score, which can save you untold amounts of money just on by getting you qualified and not where you don't have to throw that money away on rent anymore. So you can actually buy a home and start gaining equity, but you can also get a better interest rate.
Absolutely. So what does 3B credit do?
So we help, yes, ma'am. We help my ideal client, the people that we prefer to work with are people, I love to work with people that are trying to buy a home. I didn't own a home until I was in my late 40s because I struggled, and we can go as far as you want to go into that with mindset and hang-ups about money and just all kinds of things like that just kept me from getting my feet underneath me. So I really have a passion for the person that's trying to buy a home and for their family. And then I also like, because I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a business guy, I love to work with people that are business owners, entrepreneurs. Those are my people. and that are our ability to make money if we're fortunate, and understand money comes, and then our credit takes a little bit longer to catch up to it. So and that was my story. So these are my people, so I really love to serve. And to answer your question about what exactly we do, is we try to make it make sense for folks so that they understand how their credit works. We coach folks on things that they can do to get their score up while we are working on removing the negative items that are on their credit based on what's called factual disputing. And that's where we go in and we create, we make them prove what's on your credit, and we make them prove it. We go through it with a fine tooth comb. And by law, credit's an important thing, Dina, as you well know. We need it for the economy to make it. The economy, we have to measure, we have to watch things. But we also have to have factual information on our credit reports. 87% of the population has negative things that are reported on, or the United States population has negative things on their credit that is not reported factual. So if it's not on there and it's not correct, dates are wrong, dollar figures are wrong, etc., then the whole system's out of whack.
Oh yeah. And how often in your experience do you see all three bureaus carrying the exact same info?
That's right. Never. Very seldom. Very, very seldom.
Right.
Almost never. Yeah, that's a great point.
Exactly. I I've looked at, I don't even know, thousands of credit reports at this point in my career. And that is so apparent on every single person. It's pretty mind blowing how one bureau can have, a 600 while another bureau's over 700. Like, it's just, there's never very seldomly do I see credit scores with all three bureaus, like within a teeny tiny margin, So when you talk about it being disputes, on the lending side, we're kind of leery in disputes because some lenders, some investors don't want you to have disputes showing. So how do you resolve that as you're going through this process with somebody to clear those things off, not just the bad information, but the labeling of disputes so that it doesn't come back to bite them?
You mean what we're doing on our end? So we put it through what's called the dispute process. And I believe what you're asking is because you can't get somebody bought for a loan when there's disputes currently on their credit.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. So, that's just a matter of coaching and educating the client on how to take those disputes off before they're ready to actually purchase. It's kind of the cost of doing business as to get somebody qualified and get their credit up to where it could get. That's just kind of a necessary part of it.
Awesome. Okay. And when you're working with a client, what's your average lifetime of working like with a client where you start to see, some progress and some momentum for them?
Well, and that's going to springboard us into some stuff that's going to really help your audience. Your audience is going to be able to run with what I'm about to give here. So it's a really tough question because DNA is credit is like DNA. It's different for everybody. So when we go in, let's say, for example, there's a Walmart charge off, and this is where I'm going to share with you exactly what the makeup of a credit score is. You can take this information to build your score.
Awesome.
So let's say you have a Walmart charge off and it's for $500. It's 5 years old and it's been sold to Jefferson, which is a debt collector. A lot of people have heard of them. So it's Walmart, $500, 5 years old. It's been sold to Jefferson. What we're going to do on that end is we're going to dispute that and we're going to remove that for you. Now, how much is that charge off being removed going to affect your score? Is it going to give you that 60 points we talked about earlier on the show? And the answer to that is it depends on the makeup of your score. This is where it's going to get good. So your score is made up of a little over 35% of your payment is payment history. 35% of your credit score is your payment history. A little over 30% is your utilization. Older or age credit, as I call it, is 15%. Diversity of credit is 10%. And then newer credit is 10%. And inquiries would fall under newer credit. A new credit card, if you open it, falls under new credit until it's 22 months old, and then it turns into older credit and really starts helping your score like a fine wine. Mm-hmm. So those 5 things are what makes up your score. So when you're looking at, like, let's say you, for example, Dina, the makeup of your score is going to be made up of those 5 things. Where are you strong in that, underneath that umbrella, is going to determine how much that one charge off affects your score or doesn't affect your score. So it's almost impossible to determine until you get in there and create a report and really look at the nuts and bolts of what the score is made up of and how strong it is to know how much it's going to affect the score to remove that item. Mm-hmm. You can ballpark it and get close with simulators. Absolutely. Yeah. To really know, you have to get in there, and then you're going to be adding good ingredients while you're removing the bad ingredients.
Right. I always preach when it comes to credit, the 3 biggest being that payment history, the limit, or I say payment history, the time and credit, and the balance to limit ratios that you got ultimately. But you're even breaking it down a little bit further, and from there, the 2 other ones I hear you say are additionally how many credit inquiries you got, and then outside of the age time frame was the types of trade lines within that.
Yes, ma'am. So diversity of credit, and that's what makes up 10% of a credit score. And that would be, you want to have several different types of loans, and I call it strength of credit. So let's walk into that a little bit and take that apart. So let's say you've got a college student that has a 700 credit score, but they haven't been in life very long. So they're only 18, 19, maybe 20 years old. They're just getting started. They've got maybe a student loan. They've got some credit cards that they were able to get, 2 or 3 small credit cards, and they're just getting started with their credit. But they haven't had, we talked about the older or age credit is 15% of the makeup of your score. They don't have diversity of credit, and they don't have maybe perhaps good enough utilization. They don't have the age credit. They don't have the good payment history because they just haven't had enough time. Right. So they may have a 700 actually showing, but it's not going to have the diversity of credit, which is going to be mortgage, a couple of cars, let's talk about somebody like myself that's 54 years old, that's been around a long time. The average of an 800 credit score is 8.3 accounts are on that score. So when you look at that and you go, okay, so let's look at those 8 accounts. You're going to have 2 cars. You're going to have a house. You're going to have perhaps a student loan. You're going to have probably bought maybe a washing machine and borrowed the money from the bank at some point and paid that off. And then you're going to have 3 revolving lines of credit that are 3 credit cards that you're probably getting points from and getting some free airline and maybe a trip once a year or something like that with those points you're building. So that's where your 8 accounts come from.
I like that. The diversity in credit is something that a lot of people don't even think about. So many people are like, well, I do great. I don't have credit. I don't use credit cards. I don't have any of that. So I should be great, and it's such a stigma that people don't realize that the bureaus want you going in debt to prove your debt worthiness, essentially,
Well, the banks are out to protect the banks, and they want to make money. There's a lot of people that make a lot of money off of people having high interest rates. And basically in effect having poor credit scores.
Obviously you've built a business helping people navigate this. What's something that you wish more people knew, like what their score actually reflects? What they should concentrate on first is basically what I'm getting at. Should they try to diversify, or should they just try to build up a higher limit on a credit card? Do you have any a guidance on, just like you were talking about that 18, 19-year-old, where to start,
Yes, ma'am. So a couple of things that you can do. You obviously want to start with taking out taking out your first credit card, but you want to be smart in the way you take that out, because you're going to have to basically pay the price that it takes to get credit at the beginning of a life in the world, I guess. And so you're gonna start, and you got to start somewhere. So you're probably going to have to get a credit card that's not an ideal credit card. It might have an high annual fee or something like that attached to it. And then perhaps it's not going to have the best interest rate in the world. It may not give the best points and that kind of thing, but you got to work your way up. If I had a kid, let's explain it like this. If I had a kid that was, let's say 15, 16 years old, I would add them as an authorized user to one of my credit cards. Then they're going to start getting retroactive the history of that card, and they're going to have a lot more of a chance to apply. I'm not even going to tell them that I put them on that card. They don't even know. They just are building credit so that when they get to a point where they're responsible enough, they've got a score.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to educate them on you can qualify for a better card now, so that now when you get this first credit card that's actually yours, before I take you off of my card as an authorized user, you're going to look for a card that's going to the best card you can possibly get, that's going to give you the most points and going to give you the most credit that you could possibly get, one that you'll keep for a long time. Because what you're going to be trying to do with this credit card is keep it, because there's nothing better on somebody's credit card, a credit report, than there's things better, but a great thing to have on your credit report is a 10-year-old, 15, 20-year-old credit card that's been paid perfectly on time and has a 10% utilization on it. Because that, to the bank, that 10% means we can make a little bit of interest. They do use the card, but you're not a risk. And we found with our clients, we've had over 1,000 of them, we found that the wheelhouse is 10% on utilization. So
that's great.
Then now when you're getting that, because if you close that card 5 years into it, you're going to lose that payment history. You're going to lose that utilization. You're going to lose the diversity of credit, and you're going to lose the older credit. And it's going to hurt your score, make your score drop. My personal score before I started my business, probably about 2019, dropped 40 points over a closed, speaking of Walmart, it was a Walmart credit card that my wife and I had. We didn't know. We didn't know any better. We just knew it wasn't a great card for us. We weren't really getting anything out of it. We had qualified for some decent credit cards. So we were like, if we need a credit card in Walmart, we'll just use one of these. So we cut up that card, and it ended up costing us 40 points. Or cost me 40 points.
Yeah, that's always a frustration. And definitely something who haven't done their due diligence, learning about credit and stuff, don't factor that in. They immediately jump like, well, we got better interest rates over here, so let's just cut up that Capital One or that first credit card that has the 29% interest, 33% interest, whatever it may be, because we got the better. And just like you said, that time frame that you had in that card's gone. Made the adjustment on that and all the other impacts that it has in closing an old account, right? So, you brought up a good thing. How did you even end up in this space? Like, what brought you over here?
Well, when you were sharing with me about your podcast, I was so interested and fascinated with the whole thing, because it's really a cool subject for me personally. I struggled for a long time, as I was saying at the top of the show, with money and with just learning how and getting my feet underneath me. And I was really in a bad place. I was struggling. And I saw an ad on Facebook, a very organic ad. And it said, if you'd like to learn the credit repair business, I've got an offer. It was an offer to teach the credit repair. It was somebody that'd been in the credit repair space for about a year. And I reached out to this person and they got on some Zoom calls with me. I think I paid them $400, something like that, maybe $500 to teach me. And they showed me some software. They showed me some practices of how you do things in the space. And then I took it from there and ran with it. But it was just really that simple. It was just a matter of just motivating myself. I needed help with my own credit too, because my own credit, when I started this company, was in the 500s, 2020.
And where are you at now? I mean, what do you?
I'm in the 750s. Yeah, I'm in the 750s with my score. I'm still a client. I'm trying to get up to 800.
Right. Doesn't happen overnight, right? I mean, it is something that people have to work at. And that is another thing that, somebody who comes to you and says, I'm trying to buy a house tomorrow, or I want to, I need something tomorrow. How do you educate them that, hey, we need a little time. We need to get you figured out,
Yes, ma'am. It's just a matter of it. That's what it is. It's just education and explaining to them exactly how credit works and exactly how you build a score and exactly how we're going to go about working on removing these negative items for them. And so that they understand the whole process. And we do that. I think I mentioned this earlier, but we have put together a 3B credit success plan for each client. And it takes us 3 A's to put that together, but that's where we walk through their credit line by line, what the client's doing right, where they need to lean in. Because believe it or not, everybody is doing something right on their credit. Even if you're in the 400s, we're destroyed. We think that it's all over. We feel terrible about ourselves, but there are things that are going right with your score. Yeah. And we're going to go in there and let you know where to keep going, what to keep, exactly what to do and where you need to pivot. And then we're going to, break down everything that we're going to be doing to help as well.
I like that.
There are a lot of junk websites on the internet, cluttered, neglected, and forgotten. Nobody wants to visit a site with outdated information, broken links, and security vulnerabilities. That's why Neiman Creative is here to make the internet and your business more tidy. Don't let your website become a digital junkyard. Reach out to us today, and we'll make sure your website is well maintained with fresh content to boost search rankings, keep visitors engaged, and grow revenue. Connect with us at info@neimancreative.com or visit our website at neimancreative.com to get started.
What do you feel that your business is doing a little different than maybe other credit repairs companies besides doing that full-blown report? Because I know that, people glance at it, but I don't know how many go through it, with a true fine-tooth comb.
Yes, ma'am. Very few. I haven't run across one yet that does it to the level we do it. And that's by design, because as clients have come to me through the years and talked to me about what experience they've been through with other companies, I've added things and marinated our company to make it a better service for people so that it really takes care of people. But I think a lot of it is me. Our company is only as good as we are. And I really care about people. And my team, I've trained my team, because when I first started this business, it was me. I still remember the first client. She was in Corpus Christi, Texas. And I remember a realtor sent her to me, and I remember hanging up the phone and thinking, okay, I got to really get this figured out now so I can help this lady. She bought a house in Corpus. She still owns it. I guess she still owns it, but she bought a house because of the help we were able to give her. So it's an honor to play a role. And so I truly care, and I teach that to my team, and my team truly cares, and that's the culture of our company. So we're growing, but we're multiplying that care factor in what we're doing with our company, and hopefully in the masses.
Love that. So when when we're working with a client, I really enjoy working with you guys and your team. I think that we had some success already. I'm excited to see what more we can make happen for folks. But I'm liking how people are experiencing the discussion with you guys and the education. I think it's not just about fixing it. It's about, empowering them for the long haul. And that's really what I strive to do in my own businesses. That's what I'm hoping that the podcast ends up doing for folks is giving them long-term success. So in the success time frame, I know obviously your own story is a success story, taking you out of the equation. What do you think is one of the top, and the lady that you did get at the house, that's fantastic. What do you think to date is like your biggest success story?
Well, I had one recently that was a couple, and it was just one of those that really got me. I was really proud of it, and they had come to me about a year ago, and I'm not going to say they had the worst credit I'd ever seen, but it was not great. It was pretty low, and they were discouraged. It was a husband and wife. They had 4 kids. He asked me. He said, "Kevin," he said, "is this gonna pay off?" It's a guy, hardworking guy, and I said, "Sir," I said, "if you stay with me," I said, "and you do what we share with you to do," I said, we'll get there. And they were living in a 1-bedroom apartment while they were doing this, and they stayed with us for a year, and we continued. But these folks did the work. I mean, they truly did the work. We did the work too. We removed a lot of stuff for them. We coached them. Proud of my team on it. But they sent me a testimonial recently. They bought their first house, and it was the first house they had ever owned, either one of them in their family. The first people in their family to ever buy a house. And that'll put chills on you.
Yeah. That's a good success story for sure. I like that. When building the business, what's something about building your brand that you didn't know until you're already fully deep in it?
Well, I'll tell you the reason we've been able to grow to the place that we have, and the reason I know we're going to keep growing, is because people. It's helping people and pouring into people, whether it be your clients or your team. When I figured that out, because I've always been a people person, I've always loved people, I've always understood people, and when I figured that part out, I was like, oh, you mean success is really this simple? It's just, you just build the people up around you, and then everybody wins. Oh, okay, let's go. And I took off at that point. So that part is for me, I mentioned earlier in the show about, your business is only as strong as your self-development is. That's been huge.
That's great. When you're knee deep in building a business and helping all these folks out, how do you find a balance, between your love of helping people and the reality of running the business?
Where's that balance between where you cut it off between serving the client and actually making margins and that kind of thing? Right. Yeah, that's a good question. For us, it's been testimonials. We're really big on testimonials. I don't make as much with my margins as probably I should, to be honest, if we're really looking at the nuts and bolts of it. But what I mean by that when I say that is somebody that might come in and look at my P&L, they would probably say, dude, your margins could be a lot better. And they'd be right. I've got my employees or my team that I currently have, we can grow the company about 40% with the team that's already in place. So I'm way, if you will, overstaffed at the moment, but I'm hiring for where we're going, and my clients win because of that. Now, where that comes back to you and why we're growing the way we're growing is because our clients get top-notch service and they really get taken care of, and they give testimonials like it's going out of style. And that's where it actually pays off to take care of the clients. So that's just a lesson I personally learned because this is my first business.
Nice.
So it's been a process. It's not something that I had figured out and just completely understood from jump or anything like that. It's taken a little bit of learning and getting knocked on my butt. But I guarantee you, if you pour into your clients, you pour into your partners and help make sure, do whatever it takes to make sure everybody wins, there's no way you won't win.
I love that. You know, it's definitely a testimony to your own conviction on how important you know that credit really is, and how you want to empower other people to experience the same thing that you're experiencing on a personal and professional level. So, you know, being at this point in your life, creating your first business and having it already, you know, thrive in the 5-year time frame that you've, you know, already gotten this far is fantastic. So I really commend you. And like I said, I'm excited to see how you guys grow even further. Kind of coming full circle back to, you know, trying to demystify, you know, the credit strategy for folks and give a few more nuggets to some folks listening. What do you think is a common mistake that you commonly see people make when it comes to trying to rebuild, maybe on their own, you know?
Yeah, I've got a good one here for this question. Inquiries is something that, and I don't know if the formula is the right word for it, but there's a statistic that people with poor credit or challenged credit have over 13 inquiries on that's bottom level. Actually, a lot of them have a lot more than that. And then 800 credit scores have an average of 1.8 over a 2-year period. So when you start looking at patterns, you to begin with, you want to be very, very careful about who you let, and strategic about who you let run your credit. Because when somebody pulls your credit, a hard pull on a credit report, it can affect your score 15 points just on that one pull.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then, you know, if somebody's feeling overwhelmed and they really don't know if they're in a bad situation, you know, what their first step should be. Is there something small that you could educate people on what would start making a shift for them potentially? Obviously, it's a one-on-one basis. It's different for everybody, but what would you tell somebody who's like, man, I'm in my 50s. I've had a rough spot. I don't even know where to begin with trying to repair what damage has been done with those inquiries. I have 15 inquiries. You know, I got all the marks on there. What would be a good starting point for them?
Well, I would tell your audience, and I think this is just kind of a ethics conversation, if you ask me, but I think, you know, credit is definitely something that anybody can work on themselves. We've been doing it for years. And like I said, we've helped over 1,000 clients. So we are good at it, but you can do it on your own. It's not something that you have to pay somebody for. You can work on it on your own. And a lot of folks are afraid, they're intimidated. And maybe I'm projecting because I used to be this way, where you're just literally afraid and scared of Credit Karma. I mean, it's you don't even want it on your phone because you know. And you have to just kind of start and just start working on it, start researching it, start doing the work. And now you can go to, you know, AI, Chat GPT, or other resources like that one. You can read a book on it, buy a book and fix it yourself. There's things you can do to start working. And you know, my grandma used to say, you know, the best time to plant a trees 20 years ago is second best times today.
Yeah, I like that one. What's your thought in regards to a secured credit card for someone? Like if they don't have the credit to get even a credit card, right now, or they, have ran credit 5 times with 5 different credit card companies and they're not getting anywhere. Would you suggest somebody getting secured?
Yeah, I wouldn't be. There are circumstances where you recommend to somebody to get a secured. I like to find out the person's exact situation, because I think if you are on a card as an authorized user, it's just as much of a boost in most cases. So if that's a possibility, but for some of us like me back in the day, whenever I was really struggling, nobody was going to put me on as an authorized user, even though it wouldn't hurt their credit. I just didn't have the personal credibility for that,
Yeah.
So a lot of us are in a position where we don't have somebody to add us as an authorized user, and we've got to do it on our own.
Right.
That type of situation, you want to take into account, you want to be strategic with it. You want to watch the inquiries, as we talked about earlier. You want to get a card, read the fine print. You want to get one that's going to turn into a standard credit card, in a year or so. And there's a lot of them out there. It's just a matter of reading the fine print. One that hopefully you can keep. I've got one personally right now, a card. I'm not going to say the name of it, but that I had. It was an easier to get credit card, and I pay an annual fee on it every year. And it's a card. I don't get anything for it. I don't really use it. But I still pay it, because if I close, and it's money that I have if I ever need it. It's not a huge balance, but if I closed it, my score would take a hit, I'm afraid. So because of the factors we talked about. So the only reason I bring that up is to say you want to be as intentional as you can about what credit cards you get when you're starting out, because when you're at that 550 and you're trying to boost up into the 600s, you're going to be able to qualify for more cards when you get into the 600s, and you're not going to want that card that you got. So keep that in mind, because that's part of the strategy of getting up to 800.
That's great. I appreciate the time today, and I just have a couple last questions, and I think that we've given quite a bit of info here that people can springboard into other things for themselves, and definitely gonna have you give out your info here at the end so people can reach out if they need some services to make it skyrocket for them a little faster maybe. But if we were going to just have some off the wall questions, not industry related, I would ask, if you weren't in your current profession and you could choose any profession that you would want, what else could you see yourself doing and why?
Yeah, that's when I was a kid, I always wanted to be a baseball player, but we won't go with that one. But I think I'd love to be, or golf. I love either one of those would be awesome to do. But it's kind of a dream, But I think I would probably get into the something like Dave does, like coaching and just pouring into people and helping people grow. I get a lot of value and passion out of that. So I think I would really enjoy that. It's not so much for me, would be so much a money play. It would be just something that I would just, like a quality of life, just reward.
Yeah. All right. I like that. If you had total financial freedom, what would be a passion project for you that you'd want to dive into?
Anything that I picked up the guitar in January, and I've been trying to learn how to play that a little bit, having some fun with it. I would love to someday be able to get on stage and just play a little bit. I can't sing worth a lick. I don't know how many. You can give me all the lessons you want. That's not going to happen. But look, I just can't do it. But I'd love to be able to play guitar on stage. Just get an electric guitar and just play.
I was going to ask, is it electric? Is it a bass?
I'll start acoustic right now, but yeah, it would be an electric one, which what my dream would be. So, I don't know that really requires that much money. I don't know. Honestly, I've had enough time in life and been very blessed. And my wife and I have a really good life as far as, how I spend my time. Got really good people around me, but but maybe do some traveling, that kind of thing. That would be cool.
There you go. There you go. I'm gonna have a nickname of Slash for you now that I'm not
Yeah.
electric.
The Aubrey Hill. Well,
All right, and then a last one here. What's one goal besides getting on stage and having the guitar? What's one goal you still hope to achieve, whether personal or professional?
well, we talked about the guitar.
Mhm.
That's a tough one. I can tell you what. Gosh, it sounds so. What's the word? Everybody says it, but I really just want to make a difference. And because I struggled so hard in life. I mean, I can't tell you, Dana, how hard I made it on myself. That was a big part of it, but just how hard life was for me for so long. And I truly want to make people's life better. Like I don't have kids, but my wife has 3 daughters and 8 grandkids. So, I like to pour into those kids. And if one day they look back and they teach their kids something that they learned from me, that's pretty dang cool.
Oh, that is cool. That is cool. I love it. Well, tell us, where can people connect with you and learn more about 3B Credit Health?
Yes, ma'am. So I'm real big on I'm all over on 3B Credit Health on Kevin Faulkner, Waco, Texas, on all social media platforms, or 3B Credit Health. I'm real big on Facebook, my personal Facebook page, and then 3B Credit Health. We have a business page. You can find me on TikTok. You can find me on LinkedIn, but Instagram. Facebook, my personal Facebook page is where I really pour into every day. But 3bcredithealth.com is our website.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, I appreciate your transparency and willingness to come on and help some folks out. A lot of people, credit gets them clouded in shame, and just like having financial discussions about their actual money, credit is just as scary for a lot of people. So I really appreciate it. The show creation of it was really to just present people with more options and show them possibilities and empower them, and the reminder that even if your score isn't perfect, your future can still be. You just got to take some steps forward. So thank you for joining me today and sharing.
A minimum of one person will take something that they learned today and really get their score up with it.
That would be fantastic. And hopefully they'll be reaching out to yourself or myself and telling us their experience and sharing it. And we'll just keep passing it on forward. So thank you so much, Kevin. Thanks for being here today.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Absolutely. Please come back again. And thank you guys for listening in. This has been Invest in You. We'll see you next time.